You can use different signals to show the body that it's set wrong, and it'll become more accurate. And one of them is, intense training, which you clearly, you know tons about that. But some of it's AI driven, and some of it is resistance bands, which you work with a lot because they have a different load, and a different loading changes the retard strength.
Yeah.
And for me, one of the most powerful ones is electrical stimulation, because then you can force the muscles to go beyond their retard strength, and the nervous system goes, "You're gonna die." And I've done this for like hundreds of people.
Well, be going beyond normie strength, entering into retard strength.
There you go. Yeah, you can go beyond
normie,
retard
like
strength.
commoner strength is like a strong governor. If you snap the governor off, then you enter into the realm of retard strength.
There you go.
We'll probably have to edit all of that out, so I apologize. Apologize to the editors.
You don't have to apologize. Look, it's a scientific word. You have a spark retarder, and it turns down the strength. That's a part of a car. So when words that describe engineering terms are no longer acceptable, that means people have mental illness, and they need to do some work on
sensitivity around language is challenging anyway. Yeah, like the literal term to retard is to like depress or to lower. Like it's actually a completely fine word, and so you could say retard, which could mean diminishing that governor that blocks you from strength. So that's just for the record, that's how I'm using the term. I'm using it as a literal Webster's definition of to retard.
Maybe I can help. If you're feeling triggered right now, that means you're walking around with a loaded gun, and that's not very polite. So you should get a therapist. Did that help?
I agree with that as well.
I'm sorry. People use words in different ways.
How can a person start? Because so we both use a device referred to as a newbie from a good friend called Garrett.
He's been on my show, yeah.
He's a sweetie. I really love him. He's been very helpful to me. He's like anytime I text him, he's like, "What can I do? I got you." So I really appreciate what they do at NewFit and the newbie device specifically. There's a lot of complex potentialities. What you can do with it.
I mentioned it in here too.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Smarter, not harder is the most recent book
that's the new biohacking book
that's arrived.
And
which I want to get into in this conversation.
Yeah, but we can talk about whatever. Guys, I have a new book. It's awesome if you're into biohacking and movement and recovery and strength and stuff. You should buy Smarter Not Harder. There, we said it. So
bam.
We can talk about fun stuff.
Out.
All right.
Got it sorted. Now, what the hell is electrical stimulation? Right. What are some ways that we can kind of quote unquote hack strength?
Most listeners know about TENS units.
Yeah.
TENS units are they're toys for the most part. If you have a specific muscle knot, you can put TENS on it and it'll get better. Then there's frequency-specific microcurrent, which is like Dr. Tennant's work. If you guys haven't heard of him, don't worry. Jerry Tennant is a legend in the field. There, instead of just doing what a little TENS tingly unit that you've probably tried does, they send a signal in with different frequencies that can change how your body reacts. That's cool stuff. But what I'm doing is mixed waveform, EMS it's called. And this started in the 1960s when the East Germans and Russians would take their Olympic athletes, they would anesthetize them, and then they would put a wooden bite thing in them, and then they'd run electrical current over the muscles in order to show the muscles that their retard strength level was set wrong. And then they would wake up and they'd get stronger. Problem was, you and me don't really want to use heavy duty chemicals that knock out your brain in order to reset some of the body's systems. So
unless it's intramuscular ketamine and there's a shaman nearby, then I'm down.
Yeah, me too. sign me up. But it's better be a good shaman or I'm not in.
I want crystals, shaman. I want a Bose speaker with some Barangi music.
Some sage.
I'm actually serious.
So am I.
Yeah, good. All right. So using frequency, what is frequency specific microcurrent? Because this is something that...
Well, this is not frequency specific. This is mixed waveform.
Yeah,
so
sorry.
The frequency specific stuff, that is when you were to say pulse the frequency at a certain amount, like 10,000 hertz or 7,500 hertz, to cause a specific response.
Yep.
And so frequency specific microcurrent is like a special scalpel, a very detailed, like a fine paintbrush. And one of the things that it can do is if you run frequency, or they call it FSM, frequency specific microcurrent, over acupuncture points around your eyes, you can reverse macular degeneration. And I found out about that because my dad had macular degeneration. This is years ago. Did all kinds of research and found, there's an electrical way to do this. So these tiny little trickle currents that tickle and tease the cells and the pathways and the networks in the body to do things, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But that's not what I'm doing. I do that sometimes, but that's not what I'm doing specifically for the major muscles and to edit my nervous system's view of how strong I am.
Yeah.
What that is the mixed waveform. It's what they did with the Russians and the Germans.
Frequency specific microcurrent is something that I'm actually recently being turned on to it in the last probably 6 months or so. I didn't even realize that the Newbie device actually does that. And I'm not trying to promote the Newbie or whatever.
No, Newbie doesn't do FSM.
I think it does.
No, it doesn't.
Really?
Yeah.
I just talked to Garrett and I watched several YouTube videos of people using the Newbie for FSM.
I would want to talk to him about it.
Okay.
So I have the Newbie at home. You can go between, I don't know, the lower levels probably like 10 hertz or something and 500 hertz.
Yeah.
The frequency-specific microcurrent devices that I have worked with, things like what they're doing, Energy for Life or NES or Dr. Tennant's work, it's a very broad range up to like 100,000 hertz. And it's a tiny little tingle. You can do a few things like putting the EMS, the NewFit stuff on the heels of your feet and on the back of your neck, and you can calm the nervous system that way. And you might say that's a little frequency specific, but what we're talking about is playing a song, like a very specific song with tiny amounts of electricity over specific parts of the body.
Yeah.
And usually you have little tiny probes you can hit acupuncture points or very small stickers. With the NewFit, which I'm a huge fan of, the stickers are big, and the current is a little bit more than the micro they normally do. Like, I mean, you've seen people, completely lock up from it, and there's videos of me, my hands are like.
But you
this.
just do lower power and set to all the different frequencies. I don't know enough about it to speak on any authoritative way, but from what they told me is you can set, because it's up to like 0 to 500 as far as the frequencies, so you can set specific frequencies, and you got to do different things on each pad. And then it would be kind of like much lower power, and apparently you can be tapping into
you can make some stuff happen. Think of it like a metronome. So a metronome's like dun 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 dun. That's cool because that's different than just having a constant stream of electricity. What you would be doing with the highly detailed frequency specific devices is like playing Mozart.
Yeah, right.
You still need a metronome, but you need all the layers of the music.
Yeah.
So I kind of look at the tens is like I had one knot in the muscle in my low back, and maybe it'll help.
Yeah, it's like a hammer.
Yeah, I don't really use it. And then I would use a frequency specific thing if I was having like a twitch or some kind of neurological thing. I was looking to speed healing because there's great data for speeding healing. And I can introduce you to Dr. Tennant if you want.
I love that.
I think he's like 80. He's like the godfather of the field of frequency specifics.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And then what Garrett's doing with NewFit, and there's a couple other companies who are using this thing, is use one wave of electricity to kind of confuse the nervous system, and then another one to stimulate it so you don't have to knock yourself out. And at the very first biohacking conference, when I was just starting the movement, this is 10 years ago in San Francisco, I brought a bunch of devices in and had all 100 attendees. Now it's like 3,000 people go to the biohacking conference.
Yeah, great
it's
conference.
Crazy.
I think of the conferences, I would say it might be my favorite. It's one of my favorites for sure. It's really well curated conference.
Thank you. We work really hard all year on it, but it's fun. But back then it was 100 people, so there was enough you could just like everyone in the room was running electricity over each other because I wanted people to like feel what happens when something else is in charge of your muscles except for you, because what happens is fear. And then for most people, 80% they experience pain and 20% start laughing like you're tickling them. And then you ask them to be curious about it. And curiosity is the antidote for fear and any kind of fear. So they're like, actually, it's not really fear. And so let's say I had, electrodes on my bicep. So we turn them on and I'm like, oh my God, there's something else in charge of my arm. And then I'd say, well, move the arm. And then it's like, well, I can't. And you go, well, shut up, actually. That's bullshit. You can. And then they concentrate and they go, and all of a sudden they can. And as soon as they can, the nervous system doesn't show them pain anymore.
Yeah, sure.
That's why I say it lies to you. It's like, you'll die if you move your arm. And then you move the arm anyway. It goes, oh, sorry, I was wrong. Let me just change that setting.
If you did, you can tag myself or Dave Asprey on the Instagram. I'm an Align Podcast. He's at Dave Asprey. Thanks also for checking out the YouTube page. Subscribe over there so you can see the video for this episode as well as instructional content each week. That is it. That is all. Appreciate you. I'll see you next week.